AskReddit by Pizzerel94. Women who dated older men as teenagers that now realize they were predators. What's your story? My first boyfriend was 22 years old. I was probably 13-14 something. He was very controlling, the kind that tells me I'm not allowed to say no if he asks anything. He used to ignore me for days and not reply to me. And very often made me send him nudes, and I really hated it. But I wasn't allowed to refuse, or he would go find a girl who would satisfy him, a true woman. And I didn't see anything wrong at the time with this, but at least I didn't have sex with him even though he suggested that. Now I'm 21, and when I look back and think about it, I just feel so much shame and burden. And just ask myself why, and wonder, didn't he see that I was a freaking child? And I get filled with sadness. And I feel like that happening in such a young age really contributed to things I have done and hate. All I can take from this is to be careful in the future and make sure it won't happen to my own kids. He did see that you were a child. That's why he was there. As a kid, I had a friend who babysat a 30-35-year-old guy's young kids when she was 12-13. He, the dad guy, started to romance her and convinced her they were dating, but people just wouldn't understand. I do remember asking her if she had had sex with him and what it was like. She said it didn't do anything for her, but I do it because he likes it. At the time I thought she was really mature and knew what she wanted in life, and parents would just try and boss her around. She moved after a couple years of being with him, so it fizzled out. She is married with her own kids now, and we aren't friends anymore, but as an adult I wish I could go back and explain to us that she was being abused, that it was predatory, and get the guy put in prison. I don't know the guy's name to look up whether he ever got caught. Edit BC clarify and typo. This is the reason my parents would absolutely not allow me to work as a babysitter when I was a teenager. I always thought they were being overprotective, but who knows, I read too many stories like these now. I was 15 and definitely didn't understand a thing about love or danger. I found out that he was married and had a child because he literally disappeared, and I was trying to find out what happened. I'll put my experience in here while I'm at it. I was 14. He was 21, and I thought it was cool that he had a car and could buy alcohol. Luckily I didn't interact with this person for more than a few months. It's fucked up how common this kind of thing actually is. I remember my best friend dated a 21-year-old guy when we were both 14. Back then I felt a little grossed out, but honestly I was mostly jealous. He was handsome-ish and gave her the attention she craved. But eventually she figured out that he was only using her for sex, then he left her for a 13-year-old. It only dawned on me years later just how fucked up all of this actually was. He was a straight up pedophile. And we all thought he was so cool. I was 15 with a 21-year-old. He hung around youth group and made all us younger girls feel special with his attention. I was shy and quiet, didn't stand out much, but obviously wanted the special attention that all the prettier, peppier girls got. He wasn't interested until he found out my mom worked nights and I was home alone. We ended up getting into a pretty heated argument and split when, 2 weeks in, I still hadn't let him come over because I was terrified of what my mom would do if she knew I'd had anyone over while she was gone. Glad you stood up to him, but kudos to your mom for raising you right. Deleted. That is so fucked up. I was 11 and he was 23. We didn't date, he had a girlfriend, but he would sext me and send me nudes. Eventually I realized it was strange and blocked him. Didn't tell anyone about it. I sometimes wonder if it's impacted me more than I would care to admit. Deleted. He was my guidance counselor. I didn't realize how creepy he was until he proposed. The whole thing was fucked. The guidance counselor at our middle school had only girls, and a few most often, in his office, door shut. You could feel it was off, even though I was naive and knew nothing about nothing, and this was confirmed when I asked one why she was in there alone a lot and she looked absolutely panicked. As an adult, I heard he had been at the high school and they moved him because of some improprieties. Keep it creepy, 1980s. I'm from a third world country where it is normal for 15-16-year-old girls to date guys in their early to late 20s. Especially in the 90s when chat rooms became available thanks to the internet. At 13-14 years old with my girlfriends we would meet up with 18-19-year-old boys, which now I know it was not a good idea, but I didn't know any better back then. Until I moved to a different country where I learned that there were strict laws in place for adults dating having sex with teenagers. I was too stupid to understand why my mom was so upset when at 14 I had a date and got picked up in a car by a 24-year-old who bought me ice cream at MC Donald's, but luckily he was very nice and took me home after. Can't say I wasn't pressured into doing sexual stuff at very young age by much older men, but unfortunately that was the norm. Which country was it? My first boyfriend, I was barely 15, he was 21. Worked in a local shop and all the girls at my school liked him, so came as a bit of a surprise when the biggest dork ever, me, somehow landed him and not any of the popular girls. We dated for maybe 4 months. Turned out he was sleeping with 3 girls in my year, which I found confusing because I begged him to take my virginity to no avail. Always found that really weird and insulting that he never even wanted to sleep with me. Plot twist. My mum had stormed into the shop when we first started dating and told him, "If you take my daughter's virginity, I will kill you with my bare hands." God bless my mum. Your mom knew you were dating someone that much older and was okay with it as long as he didn't have sex with you? That seems odd. I was 14 and dated a 25-year-old cop. He never asked my age and I never told. One day we're chatting on phone and I told him that I got some homework to do and I'll call back later. He said freshman year of college getting to ya. I said, college? I'm in high school. Dead silence. Then he asked how old I was and I said 14. He freaked out and was saying I'm gonna go to jail for this and I'm gonna lose my job. He said I can't see you again and please don't tell anyone. I said yeah, of course. I got why he was scared and I never saw him again and never told. When I was 16 I dated one of my older brother's friends. He was 26. He knew I was younger but not exactly how much younger, and we just never talked about age. Started our fling in the summertime, so when soccer practice began in the fall he was confused, as our local college doesn't have a team. He ghosted me and my dumb little heart was broken. But looking back I'm so glad he saw it as creepy and weird, and saved us both from more trouble. I was 15 and met a 30-year-old who was an older brother of a boy I met in group therapy. He used to tell me how complicated and mature I was, lol, so cliche. I'm now 24 and seeing or interacting with anyone who is 15 makes me sick. I felt so old then, but it's insane now how obvious to me that people that age are children. I feel the same way. I'm in shock whenever I see a 16-year-old because they're just so young. I'm 32 now, same age as the man that took advantage of me. Deleted. Holy shit, I thought you were going to say your ex-boyfriend found out and talked sense into you because he was worried, but he pulled one of the biggest dick moves I've ever heard. Both of those guys sucked. Deleted. There's a scumbag in our town that dates all the town's 16-year-olds. My husband got beaten up by him for protecting scumbag's girlfriend from him. She was a classmate of his. Douchebag broke my husband's rib and kicked him on the ground. Luckily he got a short jail sentence and a like 3-year restraining order. My husband felt terrible when it happened because we'd just started dating long distance and he thought it sounded like a weird catfishing story. Guy is like 35 now and still dating girls who don't know any better. Fuck you, Chris, you asshole. I was 16. A school teacher of 30 years used to touch me and text me stuff. I didn't really realize it was bad until some years later when he married a girl from my class. I didn't tell anyone because I was scared that people would think that it was my fault. That exact experience, except he had sex with me 2 days after I reached the age of consent in my state. I eventually got him fired. Mom reported him when I was suicidal, and everyone in the school turned against me because he was the most popular teachers. It was terrible. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I hope it doesn't affect your life too much now. I was 17 and having a relationship with my 45-year-old teacher whilst I was in school. My dad was dying of terminal cancer and I needed someone to lean on. The police found out, but I didn't want to disclose any details. Watching my dad die was enough trauma, let alone having a full-on police investigation. He is no longer allowed to teach, but never was prosecuted. I tried to go for counseling, but they said they would have to inform the police of whatever I said. So I've been trying to deal with it by myself. He hit me and sent me death threats and I never reported him. How old are you now? Has the statute of limitations expired? If not, you can still report him. My cousin in GA got with a guy when she was around 13 and he was around 26. She had 3 kids with him. He slept around with anyone who was willing, including his first cousin, her mom, my aunt, and her sister. He took advantage of her and fucked her self-esteem so much that she always takes him back. Her 3 kids now all have kids too. She is raising most of her grandkids. I feel sorry for all of them. Some parts of Georgia are like a third world country. From a small town in Georgia, can confirm. I was 13 and my parents had a friend who was 24 that started hanging around the house a lot. I developed a big crush on him and ended up losing my virginity to him. I thought we were in love and going to get married. My parents found out and I never saw him again. Didn't realize how creepy it was until I had my own kids. I did this a lot as a child teenager. Though all but one relationship stayed online, they were all still very sexual in nature. I never really realized they were predators and the ones at fault due to how my mom handled me being groomed and abused by a 40-year-old man in the 5th grade. I got hardcore grounded and told not to talk to him. He got off with no punishment whatsoever. So I kept sneaking back to him. He made me feel important and special and mature. And then there were the guys I dated. A lot of guys in their 20s when I was 15 or younger. I was just a source of nudes and sexting for them. But it still made me feel needed. Then I started dating a 40-year-old man when I was 16. That's the one who broke the online barrier. He took my virginity. He ended up killing himself when he was caught molesting a 10-year-old. I still couldn't bring myself to understand he was a predator. I had been hella groomed. It took a lot of therapy and medication to realize these people were the ones at fault. They were predators. I was a kid. As a father, the comments scare the shit out of me. One thing I've mentioned to parents a couple times is that it's not necessarily the gross, annoying, creepy person at work that you need to worry about. It's the cute, funny, understanding, super cool one that you should keep an eye on. You know, the one your kid will actually seek out to spend time with and will think everything he says and does is absolute gold. I dated an older woman when I was a teen. She was in her mid-20s. I was still a minor. When we broke up, she told me she'd been stopping her friends from coming after me, but now she wasn't going to stop them anymore. She proceeded to make my life hell, and even faked her own death to make me look bad. She stalked me online for a while after that. I don't know if she still is, but I can't deny the possibility. I don't feel safe. Don't know if I ever will. All I can say is that I am floored by how many horrible tales of abuse are in this thread, all the same story each time. I'm kinda in a weird space right now, realizing this happened to me. Welp. Another story to add to the list. No wonder my dad went to the police. I thought it was my parents' usual overreaction. My best friend in high school dated a teacher and the school found out somehow. I don't know if she thinks of it like this though. I for sure do. Lol, I was friends with a girl in high school that married a teacher as soon as we graduated. As far as I know, nobody cared. He also left his wife and newborn to be with her, 0 consequences. Deleted. I had actually turned 20 a few days before, so technically not a teenager, but I married him when I was 22 and he was 38, despite every red flag and every person who begged me not to, because I was a stupid kid and thought I knew everything. I've been trapped in an abusive marriage ever since, and I'm 39 now. Thing is, I didn't realize it was abusive until about 5 years ago, and now I'm well and truly trapped. Please, young women who date older dudes, listen to people's concerns. They care about you. They're trying to help. And if you need an ear, my inbox and life experience are open to you. I will try to help. When I was 12, I would go into Yahoo chat room and wait for older men to talk to me. After I flirted with them for a while, I would get their number and then incessantly call them and leave answering machine about them being pedophiles so their family could hear. I aged myself a little here with the Yahoo chat and answering machines. Oh god, I had the same hobby. Except I would flirt and send them to a sleazy motel to wait for me there. I was obviously a no-show and some dudes would come back online and ask where I was. Some guys left their homes twice before realizing it was a setup. When I was 17, I was befriended by a guy almost 17 years older than me. We were friends for 2 years and he pursued me relentlessly. I never fancied him, but we did become really close and I cared a lot about him. I had a really hard time when I was younger and tried to commit suicide at 17, so when he promised me unconditional love, which I had never had, and showed me all this attention, he eventually wore me down. He made a move when I was 19 and I didn't say no. We were together for 2.5 years. I can't say he was a predator exactly, but when I reached my late 30s, the thought of being with a teenager actually made me want to vomit. A change of perspective was a real eye-opener, as I had always explained that I was more mature than he was, so the age gap didn't seem that big. But when you're 17, your opinion of time is so different to 20 years later. I dated someone in their 50s when I was 19. I don't know why. My parents knew and hated it. I hate the old me now too. My parents found out and threatened to have him arrested if he ever contacted me again. I was 13 years old and he was 21 at the time. At the time I was truly in love with him and tried to initiate contact with him after the fact. He wouldn't talk to me. I was super pissed at my parents at first, but looking back now, I am truly glad my parents got me out of that situation. Thankfully we never went further than kissing and slight fingering, which is absolutely disgusting looking back. But I'm glad I wasn't penetrated. The guy was mentally unstable. Eater, I just realized how fucked up my childhood actually was. My mom was 17 and my dad was 26 when they got married. They were divorced before I was 2, and it was a bad marriage. My dad loved his cocaine and beer, and my mom loved, well, his best friend. I think I'm a bad person for chuckling at this. How common is this shit? There are way more stories than I was expecting. Does it count if I was 19? X was 33 when we met. We were together for 7.5 years. I came from an abusive home, so this older, more mature man seemed so interesting and wanted to take care of me, so I was all about it. I should also mention that I look very young for my age. I regularly get mistaken as being as young as 14. I am 27 now. He was into Adja play, so in bed he was always wanting me to act like I was like an 8-year-old girl and he was my dad or older brother. Yeah, he turned out to be a pedo and has tons of CP on his computer, cell phone, and laptop. I tried going online and reporting him anonymously, but nothing ever came of it. I don't really want to go report in person because I'm scared no one will believe me because I'm his ex, and I don't want to get dragged into a court case or anything. I know step-sibling porn is the hot thing right now, but seriously, if someone asked me to pretend to be their smaller, younger relative, I would get the fuck out of Dodge immediately. That's nasty.